Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack the core ideas behind Christian outreach. We'll be digging into our source material to really understand what it means to share one's faith and why it's seen as a mission for life.
So, our source material kicks things off with a really big question, one that gets right to the heart of everything. What on earth are you here for? It suggests that to even begin to understand this topic, you have to start with your own personal purpose.
And you know what? The source gives a pretty direct answer. It suggests that you, personally, were made for a specific mission. This mission, which goes by names like evangelism or outreach, is framed as the core purpose, the very reason we're all here.
All right, so let's jump in. Here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to start with the why, the mission itself. Then we'll get into the how, the where, and the what of this outreach, before we finally look at the ultimate stakes of it all. First up, let's dig into the foundation, the big why behind this whole mission. According to the source, what's the core reason this outreach is considered so incredibly important?
So this quote right here, according to the source, this is the core directive. It's described as Jesus' final instruction to his followers right before his ascension. This command, which is known as the Great Commission, really is the bedrock for the entire concept of Christian outreach.
And what the source material really drives home is that this mission is for everyone, not just for pastors or professional missionaries. It tells this really powerful story about a guy named Reg. His simple, consistent care for his neighbor, a man named Al, actually led to Al embracing faith right before he passed away. It's just a perfect illustration of how one person taking this calling seriously can have an absolutely profound impact. And this quote from the Apostle Paul, wow. It just perfectly captures the level of personal commitment the source material is talking about. I mean, he basically frames this mission as the single most important purpose of his life, putting it above literally everything else.
And then the source just brings it right back to you with this incredibly direct, really personal question. It's a challenge for sure, and it's designed to make that abstract idea of responsibility feel really immediate and very, very tangible.
Okay, so we've got the why down, but what about the how? How is this mission supposed to actually work in real everyday life?
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The method isn't what you might think. It's not about becoming someone you're not. Instead, the source suggests you should just leverage your own passions and hobbies as a totally natural starting point for connecting with people. So the whole idea is you just invite people into what you're already doing, things you already love, whether that's sports or music or just sharing a meal. The source calls this building a bridge of love, and it creates an authentic, natural pathway for real connection. All right, so we've talked about the why and the how. But what about the where? Where does all this happen? Well, the scope is described as being both super local and, well, ultimately global. The source points to this really cool geographical model from the book of Acts, which is a historical account in the New Testament. Think of it like this. Jerusalem, that's your hometown, your inner circle. Judea and Samaria, that's about expanding to your wider region, and it includes people from different backgrounds. And finally, the ends of the earth, well, that signifies a mission that is truly global. And get this, according to the source, this model is exactly what happened in history. In the early days of Christianity, the movement didn't just stay local. It spread with what the text describes as breathtaking courage.
So this table here, it basically breaks down what the source found in early historical records. It shows how several of the original apostles traveled all over, across 3 different continents. And what's really fascinating is that source strength column, which shows the level of historical evidence for these journeys. The source argues this shows a massive movement that grew without any political power or military force behind it.
Okay, next up, the what. What does this work actually look like? The source presents a model for action that honestly boils down to a pretty simple idea. Just do what Jesus did. And here, the focus really shifts to tackling real-world, tangible problems. The source points out that Jesus consistently served the people who are often forgotten by society by caring for the most vulnerable among them.
So all of this practical work gets wrapped up in a really memorable acronym the source calls the PEAC plan. It's a framework for taking on 5 massive societal issues, which the text calls global giants.
And the source shares this incredible story to show just how powerful this kind of plan can be. There was this teenager who described their local youth center, which was just a simple, safe place for kids, as a piece of heaven in a place that feels like hell. I mean, what a striking example of how simple,
practical actions can create just profound change.
All right, so this brings us to our final section. Let's talk about the motivations, the so what of it all. What are the ultimate stakes here, as outlined in the text?
The source lays out two big motivators, and they kind of go hand in hand. On one side, you've got this sense of responsibility, the idea that if you've been given a lot is expected in return. And on the other side, you have the divine authority that's backing the mission, which frames it not as a suggestion, but as a direct command.
And make no mistake, the stakes here, as the source presents them, are just incredibly high. This mission isn't just about making life better in the here and now. The text is very clear that it has consequences for where people spend eternity.
And this verse is used to kind of flip the script. It frames the whole mission not as some big sacrifice, but as the only real way to find what the source calls what it means to really live. It's that paradox, right? You have to give up your life to actually save it.
And that's where our explainer wraps up, right where the source material leaves you, with a really powerful, really personal choice. Whose kingdom are you going to live for? Your own or his?